What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Or you guys probably saw the video we put out earlier today. It's Thursday. We're doing my must-start wide receivers for Week 10 of the fantasy football season. Now, for those of you guys that are, seasoned veterans of the channel, earlier in the season we did my favorites, my must-start and sit. So I had 5 must-starts, 5 must-sits I would go over. Then we did my rankings. So I would do like my top 24 wide receiver rankings for that week. Now, I'll say with the rankings videos, I couldn't, get in depth. It was kind of just a big overview. I like to kind of get in here, get into the nitty gritty with these players, talk about the fringe players. So we're going to try out this week's, just see how it goes. We'll try out my must-start wide receivers. We're going to do top 5 must-start wide receivers and then like 3, dart throws. So I'm just talking about players that are, fringe, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type guys that you guys can throw in your wide receiver 2 spots and flex spots. I think it's just going to be more useful, more actionable. So let me know how you guys feel about the format. You guys know I'm always open to changing whatever. Now, before we get into this video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. We put out daily fantasy football content to make sure that you guys can go out there and dominate your leagues. Now, with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
All right. So first up on our list is a guy I have some history with. And my must-start wide receiver of the week, the guy that I have the highest ranked out of all these guys. It's pretty much an order of how I would rank these guys. And first up, guy that I have a lot of back and forth with. I've come out and said on the Top 10 Lessons show, I've taken my L. I've written threads on this guy. I wrote a video on him saying, fade Michael Pittman. He is the real deal. Michael Pittman. He's going to be at home against Jacksonville this week. He now has 3 top 12 PPR finishes in a row. He has 4 touchdowns in that span. He's getting like 50% of the end zone targets in those games. He's doing crazy good. Now, he didn't have I want to say he had a sub 20% target share last week, but it seems like even in games where he's not getting a ton of volume, he's scoring a touchdown. So he's like making up for it with efficiency. Now, he also has a quarterback who has looked really good. Carson Wentz has kind of looked a little bit like his older self. Now, not like, MVP Eagles Carson Wentz, but pretty big upgrade from Phillip Rivers last year. I like what I've seen from Carson Wentz. Now, you are going to get the thing is, you got this in Philadelphia. You're going to get that one play a game from Carson Wentz where he gets out of structure, kind of like Josh Allen, like souped up on Adderall, where the play breaks down, he gets out of structure, and then it's like, oh shit, I gotta make something happen. Put the ball in my left hand, chuck it into a defender for an interception, or just run the ball and just figure something out and chuck the ball interception on my own 2-yard line. He does just make those like head scratching plays. But back on topic with Michael Pittman is Wentz has looked good enough to sustain a very, I wouldn't say a really good passing offense because it's not a great passing offense, but enough to sustain Michael Pittman's production. And they're going up against Jacksonville this week. They're going to be at home against an in-division opponent. I think the Jaguars are all souped up from beating the Bills. I doubt that they roll in here with any kind of motivation. They're probably just happy to beat the Bills. So they're going to come in here. They're a team that ranks 32nd in pass defense DVOA. I like Wentz and Pittman to, go at this passing, defense, pretty much dice them up. And I think that, the Jaguars are just going to implode after their first, like, meaningful win in a really, really long time. So I like Michael Pittman, as a strong wide receiver 2 this week in that, wide receiver 18 to wide receiver 20 range. And that brings us to our second wide receiver on this list, Tyler Lockett. He's going to be on the road in Green Bay, and I'm so excited to see this offense again with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, by the way, is a goddamn titan, bro. As much as you want to say like Russell Wilson is cringy and he's like the Mr. Unlimited and all that nonsense, like the guy is a trooper, man. The guy is out here. He gets the mallet finger, which is insane. His finger's all screwed up, so he can't even throw a football. And I think that's part of him. He's like kind of like JJ Watt, where he does it for the camera. But the guy's out here in like the sleeveless hoodie, taking snaps. What was it? The Seahawks versus Steelers on Monday night, or like Seahawks versus Saints on Monday night. He's out there like a week after. He's like getting on the knee, like he's in the huddle, like calling plays and shit, and like going through like alive, like getting reps in like a week after the surgery. He gets his pin out, posts the pin on the Twitter. He wasn't supposed to be back until week 12 from all the fantasy doctors, but as soon as that pin got out, I knew he was going to be in. If you guys have been watching, I said that I was like, I'm telling you guys, he's saying week 12, he's going to play in week 10 if he's good to go. It seems like he's pretty much cleared to play. And this is one of the bigger games on the slate because we have Russell Wilson against Aaron Rodgers. It's Green Bay versus the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. The over-under was shockingly low. It was only like over-under 49. I thought it was going to be more like 54, 53. But I feel like both of these quarterbacks, we're going to have a little bit of a duel here. Both of these guys got something to prove. We have Russell Wilson, the injury, all that stuff. He wants to get back out there, prove himself. You have Aaron Rodgers, the COVID stuff, him getting, flamed by the media. And I love Tyler Lockett in this matchup because, like I said, there's going to be fireworks in this game. And this Packers secondary isn't as good as advertised because Jair Alexander hasn't been there. Ever since he got put on IR, they've allowed some really big fantasy point games to opposing wide receivers. Now, these are opposing wide receivers. I guess you could call them their wide receiver ones. You have Deontay Johnson, 9 for 92 and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, 6 for 159 and a touchdown. Darnell Mooney, 5 for 45 and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, 7 for 122 and a touchdown. Who'd they just play, the Packers? I'm trying to figure out what this tweet was in reference to. And then, so this was actually like a tweet from a couple weeks ago. So I guess they played the Packers played the, I can't remember who they played after that week. But regardless, this is a vulnerable pass defense. I think even if their pass defense was good, they're going to hone in on DK Metcalf. It'll let Tyler Lockett get open. I think a Tyler Lockett, boom game is in the cards here. Like, 4 for 115 and a touchdown feels in the range of outcomes. Now, before we get into our third wide receiver here, let me pull something up real quick. I just wanted to get this on the screen, looking pretty. We got the Underdog Fantasy logo. Just want to let you guys know that this channel, everything that is done by Ron Stewart, is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Those guys have been super, super kind to me. They've been amazing. All you guys out there that have signed up for Underdog, keep the lights on in the studio. Allow me to, what is it? It is Wednesday at 4:38 p.m. and I'm out here talking about fantasy, the sport that I love, and it's because of Underdog. And when you guys see this, it'll be the Thursday night football game, Dolphins versus Ravens. If you want to sweeten it up a little bit, maybe you don't have enough players playing that night. Maybe you just want to add. Maybe you're 2-7. You just want to have some excitement in your life. Underdog has a really, really sick promo right now where if you use my promo code RON, when you deposit, they will match your deposit up to $100. So if you deposit $10, they'll match $10. You deposit $100, they'll match $100. They have pick'ems where you can go over, under, and parlay them, or over, under receiving yards, passing yards, fantasy points, all that good stuff. They have drafts. If you want to hop in a draft, you can draft, I think, like 6 players, and you can go out there, net like $2,000 in their crazy tournaments. We have a guy in the Discord, Derek, that has literally made like $12,000 over the last like 2 weeks, and it's crazy. His screenshots are wild. And then also they do like college football pick'ems. They do esports pick'ems. So if you're into like League of Legends, or not League of Legends, maybe it is League of Legends, or like Overwatch, that kind of stuff, and you're really into that. I think I was saying that in the video that came out earlier. Esports is the 100%. If you know what you're talking about in esports, that is by far the biggest advantage to have, because that market isn't efficient yet. Like, that is where all the money can be made. I just don't know about that stuff. Now, our third wide receiver we're going to talk about here. Make sure you use promo code RON when you deposit $10 or more on Underdog Fantasy. You can get your deposit all the way matched 100% on the app. It's the link for it will be in the description. It'll be down below in the comments. But our third wide receiver is going to be Mike Williams. I have a very love-hate relationship with the guy, because I said to sell him after his first 5 big weeks. If you could sell him for top 5 wide receiver prices, I would. But I'm kind of buying the Mike Williams rebound. And I get that he's disappointed in his last 4 games. He now has 4 of his last 5 under 8 PPR points. And I like him for 2 reasons. One being his environment, and the other being matchup. And I know that's dangerous because I always say talent over everything. But on a week-to-week basis, when we're trying to find that next, okay, who's going to pop off this week, on a week basis, when we're dealing with such a small sample, the best players aren't always going to win out. I think over the long term, the best players win out. So the Chargers are one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL, which is really good for Mike Williams. They are the 6th highest team in neutral pass rate. They have They play high tempo. They're fourth in plays per minute, so they get up to the line. They call plays. So there's a lot of passing plays. They're also, if you look at this from Dwayne McFarland, one of the best in the game, he shows like in trailing situations. I don't know why I said twailing. In trailing situations, they're plus 7% in pass versus the NFL. In close games, they're plus 5%. In leading, they're plus 9%. In all these situations, they pass the ball more than league average, which is crazy. They're also quarterbacked by Justin Herbert, a guy who is, what I believe to be an elite quarterback. And I just can't believe that Mike Williams' first 5 games were a fluke, that he went out there, that he did all that good stuff. And, his 8-out coming down and him being a true X wide receiver and them winning games, right? So they had a lot of success from, using him in that role. I just can't believe it's a fluke. Now, this week, he has a matchup against the Vikings and one of the highest over-unders of the week, 53-point over-under. The Vikings are allowing the 9th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. They have like Cameron Dantzler, Bashad Breeland. They don't have a lot of good players in that secondary. I like Mike Williams to possibly dice those boys up. I have him as a firm top 24 option in week 10. All right, had to pause it again. I'm dying over here. I told you guys in the other video, but I'm not feeling the best. I just have like a scratchy throat right now, so nice little water break. But our fourth wide receiver here is Chase Claypool. He's going to be at home against Detroit. And look, guys, I know it's been ugly. The guy hasn't had a top 24 finish since week 5, which was now 4 weeks ago. And I partly blame it on Ben. Now, Ben has been bottom 5 in completion percentage, yards per attempt, all that good stuff, and throws over 20 yards. But the thing is, it's not like Ben is leaving anytime soon. But that doesn't mean Claypool won't have his blow-up spots. He had blow-up spots with Ben last year. He had blow-up spots with Ben this year. Not blow-up spots, but he has at least a top 12 finish. Now, with Claypool, I like against the secondary, the Detroit Lions, who are really bad. They're bottom 5 in pass defense DVOA. I like his chances of, just absolutely taking these boys to town. He is a really talented wide receiver. I still do believe that Chase Claypool is in a really, really good, a really strong NFL wide receiver. Now, if you look at this, he has, according to PFF, the biggest advantage against his opposing cornerbacks for this matchup, even more so than Deontay Johnson. He is going to go out there. He should be able to light those guys up. It just comes down to if he can connect with Ben. So I like him to be, a boom-bust top 24 play this week. If he was ever going to have, one of those games from last year where he goes out there and scores like 3 touchdowns, like 100 yards, I really do like it to be this week at home against Detroit. And Ben Roethlisberger always plays better at home. Then our last must-start wide receiver is Hunter Renfrow. And he's going to be at home against Kansas City. And he is just somebody that is currently demanding me put respect on his name. And if we zoom out from like a dynasty perspective, like Hunter Renfrow's career arc hasn't been bad at all. The dude produced in year 1. His yards per route run in year 1 was also really efficient. He's been great this year. The problem is that he just looks like a guy that would be like in my mom's accounting firm. Like he doesn't look like an NFL football player, which is the problem. I think his perception is like if Hunter Renfrow looked like DK Metcalf, like people would probably would pump him up as much as they do like Brian Edwards and like McCole Hardman, those kind of guys. Like Hunter Renfrow's stats are legit. He's been a top 30 wide receiver the last 2 weeks. He's been in the 20% target share the last 2 weeks. He has 11 plus points in every single game besides 1. He has only 1 game under 5 catches. Like he's been really solid. He's been like, he is kind of like a Cole Beasley type build. And I like him this week because they're going to go be at home against the Chiefs, one of the highest over-unders on the slate. And the Chiefs are bottom 5 in pass defense DVOA. I think they're going to hone in on Darren Waller. They're going to give some outside respect to Brian Edwards. But I think in the slot, Hunter Renfrow is probably going to eat up. Now, the problem with Hunter Renfrow is he doesn't have like huge like weekly ceiling where he can finish like the best wide receiver on the slate, unless if he gets like really lucky. But I like Hunter Renfrow to have like 8 catches for like 40 yards and like a touchdown. Something like that sounds in his range of outcomes. Now, obviously, we're not putting him in my top 24, but he's a strong top 30 wide receiver 3 type player for me this week. If you have to put him in your flex, it's really not the end of the world. Now, again, let me know how you guys feel about this video format, because now those are my top 5 must-start wide receivers. Then we're gonna go to my flyer, some guys that are flex plays that are in the wide receiver 3 range. And first up on this list is I really like Marvin Jones this week. He's going to be in Indianapolis, and something that people don't talk about is, yes, the Buccaneers and the Saints, right? Those are 2 defenses that are really good against the run, are okay against the pass, and their pass funnels, essentially. They stop you against the run. They force you to beat them by passing the ball. The Colts are the same way. They have the second best run defense in defensive DVOA, the 26th best pass defense. So they also force you to pass the ball on them. Elijah Moore just went crazy on the Colts. I want to say he had like 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. I like Marvin Jones. This feels like one of those Marvin Jones blow-up games where he goes out there, has, like 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. And I like that, Trevor Lawrence is finally turning it up here a little bit. A big win against the Bills. I said that I said in my last video did I say that today? Yeah, that was during the Pittman one. But I do think the Jaguars implode a little bit in this game, but I do think that it's going to be garbage time. They're going to be behind against the Colts. And I like Marvin Jones as, a nice, like back-end wide receiver 3. I like him as a nice flex play this week, which then brings us to Jarvis Landry, who's going to be in New England. He led the team in targets last week. He's been hovering in that, 23% plus target share range, and he hasn't seen a ton of production this year. But I like in this week when we're not going to have Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton, it's going to be just Dearness Johnson. I could see the possibility that they lean on the pass a little bit more without their run game being as dominant. And with that being said, Jarvis Landry is still a talented player. Things haven't really popped off for him this year, but I like him, in that wide receiver 3 range as well. And then our last wide receiver on this list is an absolute flyer. We're talking like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 guys. You're in a deep league, like a 16-teamer. You're in maybe, people have like 20 players on their rosters. But we got Tyler Johnson, who's going to be in Washington. And Tyler Johnson is a darling of mine because I loved his prospect profile. He broke out as a freshman. He looked really good at Minnesota. He doesn't get invited to the Combine. He doesn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. Just all these things don't pan out for him. But if you follow the channel and you're a Dynasty guy, you know who Tyler Johnson is. Tyler Johnson was a dog in college. He was, during Rashad Bateman's like early parts of his career, Tyler Johnson was the alpha in Minnesota. He was really, really strong. I thought if he had like day 2 draft capital, I think that he would be someone we'd be talking about right now as, a pretty good wide receiver. His prospect profile is interesting. But with that being said, he has a pretty juicy matchup this week, given that Antonio Brown probably isn't playing this week. He's still in a walking boot. I think Chris Godwin just came out with some kind of injury today, but I like him to be in there in 3 wide receiver sets. He's been hovering around that 60% snap share in recent weeks, and this Washington defense is really bad. They're bottom 3 in pass defense DVOA. They're giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. And with that being said, on a team that scores a lot of points, Tom Brady finds people in the end zone. He finds people for big chunk gains. I like Tyler Johnson to finally, have himself a nice little fantasy relevant game. I like him as like a boom bust wide receiver 4 type guy. Again, this is if you're really desperate. Maybe you have like 3 flex spots in your league. Somewhere really desperate. I don't hate Tyler Johnson as a play this week. Now that's going to do it for us today, fellas. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Also, if you want full access to my weekly rankings, I'm going to be coming out with that today. That'll have PPR, 0.5 PPR, standard, all of that good stuff across the board. Super flex rankings, flex rankings. So if you have, Marvin Jones versus, Ty Johnson, who do you want to start between? I have my flex rankings across every single format. I'm telling you guys, it is really, really solid for only $5 on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. It'll be in the description. Won't be in the comments because that'll be where the underdog code is. Now, I love you guys. Tomorrow we're going to come out. I'm going to be doing some Dynasty videos. I hear you guys. You guys are asking for Dynasty videos. Also, for those of you guys out there that are new, we are a fairly new channel, right? So I had maybe we just hit 1,000 subscribers in like June. But from pretty much February, so like a month before the Combine through like a month after the draft, from February to June, we're going to mostly be doing Dynasty content. So I would say we almost cover more Dynasty content on this channel than seasonal content. It's almost like half and half. So those of you guys out there that are begging for Dynasty videos, know that there is going to be a ton of them once the season's over. And I'm going to start implementing a little bit more here as we get towards the end of the season. So be on the lookout for that. I just finished my Dynasty rankings on the Patreon. So that's also on the Patreon for only $5. So I'm going to go over my top 24 running backs, my top 24 wide receivers, kind of just go over my thoughts of, kind of movement and kind of just how I feel about each player and where I have them ranked. So that's going to be that. As always, I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper song, singer, suspended, subpoena from misdemeanor.